Omen is in theaters right now, and this is my formal review, full review, and then I'll talk some spoilers towards the end. Is it a good movie? No, it's for me, it's not. And in fact, I am in the minority of this movie, The First Omen. A lot of people seem to be liking it, and from people that I didn't expect, because I thought some critics out there could look at story structure and pacing that seem to be thrown out the window from the criticisms that I've seen of The First Omen, a prequel to the First Omen, the Omen 1960s, right? So the synopsis reads, a young woman is sent to Rome to begin a life of service to the church, but encounters a darkness that causes her to question her faith and uncovers a terrifying conspiracy that hopes to bring about the birth of evil incarnate. Now we know that, yes, this is, well, the prequel, right? So what do you think is going to happen? uh, if you know The First Omen, then you know, hey, this is not a spoiler that Damien is in The First Omen. So if this is a prequel, if you put two and two together, you kind of figure out where this is going. I've published a few shorts about this. It actually does sort of a decent job of leading into that first movie from 1960 or 1976. Sorry, it does a fairly decent job at doing that. I'll concede that, from Richard Donner, Gregory Peck, and Harvey Stevens starred in that one. Right? No, David Warner was in that. I need to revisit this one. I know that this one was a little bit more religious, like they pulled from like scripture and stuff like that. And The First Omen doesn't seem to do that. It just kind of shows you, well, her story. The main nun here, played by Nell Tiger Free, Margaret, coming to Rome to start a new, take her vows and stuff and become like a full nun. And then, of course, she uncovers this conspiracy of what's going on. Are they trying to create the Antichrist? Well, if you know the concept of the Omen, that's pretty much what they're trying to do. And all of that stuff is fascinating. It's interesting. I'll concede that. That's where the movie is really interesting. The problem is that it takes about an hour to get to that stuff. And I've said that countless times in all my little shorts over the weekend. So I'm pulling my hair out here when I hear like other critics saying that this is the best horror of the year. Or what are you talking about? Did you do you not understand pacing? Do you not understand story structure and setup and payoff? This thing sets things up that slightly gets paid off towards the end, and then it does leave a few loose ends. And it does it in such a way where, okay, we're going to these nightclubs in the beginning. She questions her faith because she wants to go out partying. Okay, fine. Show that she's, maybe not fully invested in it, but it doesn't take 40 minutes to establish that to us as the audience. You see, I'm getting a little bit hot about this now. Because when you come out and say that this is one of the better horror movies of the year, I'm like, did we watch the same movie? Did we watch the same movie? Obviously, we didn't. So my frustrations, as you can see with this, are a little bit high. Like, is it a terrible movie, James? Is it something that you would not sit down and watch again? No, this is not one of the worst movies of the year. It's not. It's just not very good. It's kind of like, well, I'll tell you, I think I like the Pope's Exorcist better than The First Omen. James, you just weren't paying attention. It just didn't work because you didn't like the way that they were setting things up. Hey, as I said, I have no problem with, taking little side pauses to establish mood and tone. But why does it have to take 45 minutes to 50 minutes for us to do that before you actually get to the part of the story where we want to actually see what the heck is going on? And then you show, yeah, there's some disturbing stuff about the birthing, and metaphorically and not, I'll grant you that. As I said, it's not a terrible movie, but it's not also one of the greater movies. It's not one of the better horror movies that I've seen this year. Let me pull up my little list here and see what other movies I got here listed. Night Swim was terrible. Yeah. What else we got? Lisa Frankenstein was awful. That's the worst one of the year. Lisa Frankenstein is the worst horror movie of the year. Imaginary wasn't all that good. I liked Immaculate, and a lot of people are going to be comparing this to Immaculate, and justly so, because it's about a nun that goes to take her vows and become part of the church, and then there's something a little bit more sinister going on in the background. Kind of like, are they trying to create the Antichrist here, or what the heck's going on? So, and this movie, Immaculate, actually does a better job of kind of like dealing with the religious side. They don't mind pulling up the scripture. And what I found more believable about Immaculate was that Sydney Sweeney's character questions, well, gets put in a position where her faith is tested, and her faith wins. So I'm kind of like, I liked her responses to the questions of like, wait a minute, is the church really involved in this? What's going on? That's okay. But that's not how God would respond. That's not how Jesus would respond. And she calls it out in Immaculate. So it's kind of frustrating for me that Nell Tiger Free doesn't question it when it actually happens. It's kind of like, oh no, I think I'm doing a good thing here. But it's kind of like, it doesn't go back to the faith. It just goes to normal human responses of, okay, is this a good thing or a bad thing based on just simple morals? It doesn't really have that much to do with her faith. Okay, I'm going to try to calm down here just a little bit. Because as I said, there are some good things in here. Her acting, Nell Tiger Free's acting is good. Ralph Ineson's acting is good. But there's certain things in here that just don't land. And it's just small things, like you wouldn't realize that, well, if somebody's holding on to you like this, you can't pick them up and just go like this and have them be light as a feather. It's little logical inconsistencies like that okay, it happens one time and you're like, all right, I'll give it a pass, because I kind of like and enjoy the mood and setup of what they're trying to do here, and it'll get better, right? They won't do anything like that again. And lo and behold, literally, as I said, how the heck can, like, physically, the laws of physics, how can that happen? And why aren't you questioning that would happen? Because it has nothing to do with the devil. It has nothing to do with supernatural powers. It's just normal physical kind of stuff, human on human interaction that I'm talking about here. So when somebody comes out and says that this is one of the most better horror movies of the year, well, I guess it's technically because of what we've had so far this year in the realms of horror, perhaps it's in the top 3. Granted. Okay. There is an issue I want to quickly address before we go into some other things here too, before I go into it. Because I've talked about this in my shorts review, and this is something I alluded to in my straight out of the theater reaction, is we're going to get this out of the way. There's a movie in 1981 called Possession. Isabelle Adjani does this tremendous performance of like screaming and gyrating, and you don't know what the heck she's doing. She just screams and screams and screams, and you can tell that the First Omen is heavily inspired by it, and that's fine. Paying homage is fine, except for the fact that when it almost copies it exactly to the point where maybe I can't show some of the stuff here, but kind of like copies. It's kind of like, that's not homage anymore. You're just ripping it off. Sorry, I guess that goes into a little bit of spoiler kind of stuff. Let's go over to my preliminary score sheet and try to figure out where I'm going to score this movie, The First Omen. Because, as I said, the acting is actually fairly decent. Now, is it award worthy? No. Acting, directing, story out of a possible 2 points each, cinematography and score out of a possible 1 point. But because of Nell Tiger Free, it's good acting. Uh, because of Ralph Innocent, um, I'll say the acting and even Charles Dance comes in to help set this up with an interesting opening scene. So I'll give the acting the full credit as it is due. But this movie's too long. It's 2 hours, and it's got some story issues. It has some, as I said, that interesting premise. So of kind of like, who really is the bad guy here? Obviously, we know it's going towards Damien, but it's an interesting idea that there's some evil forces within the church that are maybe driving it towards that. So that's all interesting. Directing, I'm going to give one as well here because it fails in the execution of that story. It needed to be tighter. You needed to heavily edit the first 40 minutes of this film down to about 20 minutes because a lot of it could be established like that and it would have happened a lot tighter. And if that had happened, perhaps I would be on the other side of this where with everybody else saying that this is maybe one of the better films, horror films of the years thus far. Cinematography, serviceable. Score, it's not as good as the original 1970s version of the Omen. It serves its purpose, so it's middle of the road right there. So that's where I'm sitting right now before we go into the watchability factor. 4.5. As you can see, it's not going to be one of the worst. But let's go over to the tomato meter and see what people are saying here. 78 by the critics, 64 by the audience, and I'm a little bit perplexed because movie critics watch way more movies than what we do as casual fans. So they get to see all the other movies, other horror genres, like the people that go out and see things like Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. Like, I haven't even seen it yet, kind of thing, right? Late Night with the Devil kind of thing. I haven't seen that yet because it just hasn't been playing around. I want to see it, which I hear Late Night with the Devil is truly one of the better horror movies of the year. Let's go down to the snapshot reviews and see what people are saying. See if we agree with them. LA Times. If you ever wanted to spoil an omen with an omen beforehand, it should get you converted for a couple of hours. I don't see it. No, that's completely meaningless. So Richard Roper here. Directed with an intense fever dream style by Akasha Stevenson, featuring an electric performance by Nell Tiger Free, and stellar work by supporting cast led by Sonia Braga and Bill Nye. What's he doing in this movie? I'm the father of this big, huge. Let me smile as again. It just like. Did we watch the same movie? I'm just. As you can see, I'm frustrated here. Schwartz movie reviews. Unneeded third Omen movie. Well, it's not the third, actually. We'll talk about that in a minute. There's a poll up. There was some Omen movies where even I forgot that they had made them. Why is that jumping to the top? Other people. The first Omen fails to deliver scares and shocks without purpose. And though laughable, it is not the kind of revisit. Yeah. I said that out of my theater reaction. They show a creature, and it's kind of like guys, what? Like, hi. And let me guess. Matt Donato loves it. Probably thinks it's the best thing since sliced bread, probably. Right. And and you know that Donato's seen a lot of these horror movies, so how is it possible? How would that be possible? I know he's got to be in here somewhere. I should have pulled it earlier. If we don't get to see him, I want to know what Perry Nemiroff thinks too, because I mean, I can't like as you can see, I'm really, really on the minority side of this. So even people who say that it's not scary seem to be giving it a positive review, and I don't know why. The First Omen isn't quite as scary as it thinks it is. So then why do you give it a good review? But it is effective in its exploration of body horror and the anguish of abuse. I don't know, man. Okay, say Donato. I knew that he would like it. Nobody could predict that a theatrical Omen prequel would go this hard. Guys, if showing human genitalia is going hard, that's enough to overrule story structure and pacing problems for you. I don't like, how is this possible that we watched the same movie and like, God's sakes, it's, all right, James, calm down, calm down, calm down. It's not the end of the world. Bibiani, there we go. Maybe he'll see it as it is. The new movie's twists can only exist if they don't contradict the previous films. So only a few surprises are even possible, and those can only happen in unsurprising ways. So, Bibiani, that's not quite as articulate as you think that it should be. I don't think we're going to have Perry on here. She doesn't always publish her reviews, and maybe because she didn't like it as much as the other people. But yeah, guys, as you can see, I'm just kind of like, hey, pulling my hair out. All right, let's finish up my score sheet here, and we'll address all the other Omen movies here. Um, because I think I covered pretty much everything before without going into spoilers, and we'll go with well going on to heavy spoilers. Watchability factor. I'll grant you this: it's worthwhile seeing if you're curious about the Omen, if you like the trailers. Just know if you are um, new to horror, you haven't watched a whole lot of horror movies, then yes, perhaps there's some value in this. I can understand that if that's where you're coming from. But like people like Stuckman and Jeremy Johns, like you guys seen lots of horror movies. You know that well, actually Stuckman doesn't review movies anymore. So it's kind of like his observations have just been kind of like sadly irrelevant. And that sucks. It sucks because I liked his thoughts on movies. He only shares thoughts on movies if he likes them, and it's kind of like 5.5 for The Omen. As I said, it's not the best movie of the year. It's not the worst movie of the year. There's some interesting ideas in there. So 5.5 out of 10 for The First Omen from me. And I think that's where I'm probably going to land. Right? Yeah. 5.5 for The First Omen. Okay. Pretty intense there, guys. It's just I wasn't expecting that I would be completely in the minority in this because as I said, I thought people out there would be able to diagnose pacing and story structure. Um, I too many times in the first 45, 50 minutes, I'm looking at my watch. I'm looking at my phone. Um, I'm kind of like, hey guys, get on with it. Where are we going with this? And that's what tainted my experience for The First Omen. 5.5. So, some spoilers. This is where the spoilers start, guys. Charles Dance is only in it for the first part of the film, first scene, basically. I was kind of like shocked to see him in there. Uh, but yeah. And that does, normally that stuff doesn't bother me. Okay, fine. You bring in a big ringer to set the mood and tone. Fine. But then the story just kind of meanders. And what I mean by that, okay, she comes to Rome to take her vows. We know this. Then why does it take us an hour to get to the point where she starts to think that something weird's going on, right? Um, do we think that Bill Nye's dirty on this? Probably. There's a weird side story that happens with this other girl that we suspect is the First Omen. And as we find out later on, as I said, this girl, as we find out later on, she's just one of the candidates because the church, there's like, as Ralph Ineson's character explains to us, there's two churches. There's a regime within the church that are trying to create the Antichrist so that people will start believing in the church again. And if you are a religious person, then this stuff will probably get under your skin a little bit because it's like a church within the church that are think that they're doing good, but they're bad. Like that stuff is fascinating, but that stuff doesn't come to light until much later on. Like as I said, after the first hour. This is the shocking scene right here, um, where she's giving birth, and you don't know if she's giving birth to one of the specimens. I think it's hinted that she is, because they're basically using DNA or whatever to try to resurrect the Antichrist, impregnating these people, and then having the kids grow up to make Damien, right? And this is in this scene you see this demon hand come through her lady parts. Um, if it was like a normal hand, I think that would have been a little bit more scary for me, or at least creepier than this uh, green thing with fingernails. As I said, it goes to the creature that we see at the end. That's kind of like this weird dog thing that that made me laugh. I laughed out loud in the theater when I saw the weird dog creature, because it's kind of like, again, that's not what the uh, that's not what the devil would look like or any kind of demon. James, how would you know? You know everything about demons and what the devil would do. Not if you know anything a little thing about demonology, an outcast of it maybe. Um, but you're saying that it's going to be like the Antichrist. There's an interesting idea there, but it just doesn't unfold because you go with this other nun. She's going out partying, getting drunk, and being promiscuous, and we spend time with them. So it's kind of like, uh, yeah. Um, okay, so let's go to the reveal of her. Um, Basically, these are two of the prototypes that are two females that were bred for the purpose of making Damien, the Antichrist. She thinks that she's just a normal girl there that's got like some mental problems up here. So she thinks that she's trying to save her by like, befriending her and trying to, give her advice and stuff. But then the big reveal is that, oh no, she also is a vessel to be used. Um, that sort of worked. It did. Um, in the execution of it. But they don't go into a lot of explaining exactly how and why. It's kind of left a little bit to the background, left to dialogue and exposition. A lot of it given by Ralph there, uh, and he does a good job at doing it. But it's kind of like I want to see like that. What you're describing, it's kind of like Luke Skywalker in the prequels of him creating the Jedi Temple. You're describing it to us. That's the more interesting part of the story that you should have been showing us in the first act, right? Anyway, um, so the big reveal at the end is that two is that yeah, she gives birth to two children. One of them is Damien, because they need to have a male for the Antichrist, um, and it leaves the door open for there to be a possibility that there could be, well, a sister out there to Damien, which I don't think was ever addressed in the first, like in the 1976 version of the Omen. That there could have been a sister there. Um, I'll stand by my statement that it was a valiant attempt. There was some great opportunity there, but it felt like they missed, for me at least. Let's take some live comments here. Um, okay, so let me just scroll over and take a look at what people are saying in the live chat. Arglass says, wasn't the prophecy of the omen the child will be born from a jackal, then swapped into a wealthy household? Is this referenced in the movie? No, it's, or maybe that's where the dog thing comes at the end, but it's not like a jackal if it's like 6 feet tall with huge long legs. Creature design. They needed to revise their creature design. Biker says Imaginary was terrible. Yeah. I, Again, with Imaginary, at least between this and Imaginary, they had some really good ideas. Like the premise of what they were trying to do was good. It was solid. It was just on solid grounds. It was just in the execution of it. It didn't land. Arglass says weirdly, Chris Stuckman liked Lisa Frankenstein. Probably. Well, you know why? Probably because he only got an interview with the director. So if you get an interview with the director, I like your movie, man. Anyway, Arglass says, but James Nunn's weigh a buck and a half. Everyone knows that. No, it wasn't. Okay, yeah, let's talk about that scene. No, it's her that lifts this body. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, so yeah, it's her. There's a scene where the supposed father of Damien gets rammed by a truck, and just like a scene out of uh, Signs, M. Night Shyamalan Signs, like you know how the mother dies in that. It's exactly like that. Um, but I want to show you. This is only 20 pounds. Okay. This is not half of a human body. Um, they're holding each other like this. Um, she just picks it up like this and goes, "What are you guys looking at? Oh no!" And then she looks down and realizes it's only half the body. You're still holding up like this is only 20 pounds. Um, she's still holding up a. The guy must have been at least maybe 190, 200 pounds. You're still holding up 100 pounds, so you'd be like this. It's like the laws of physics again. And as I said, if it only happened the one time, then perhaps I could forgive it. But it's kind of like roll with it kind of thing. Okay, fine. I like these other parts about the film, so I'll forgive that. But logical things like that just are kind of like peppered throughout the film that it mars the experience. Um, yeah, like you can see, like you just got hit by a car. You're just going to get up and walk. No, you're not. Um, and if Ralph Ineson's character has been kind of ostracized, then nobody of the church would allow him to come in and talk to people, right? And they sort of address that, but then it gets swept underneath the rug and never talked about ever again. And it sucks because he did do a decent performance, and I said that he did. Um, Bifer says possession was banned for 30 years for violence and horror. Well, yeah, um, because and here's yeah. So she does the full vibe, like the body convulsing, screaming scene, just like in possession. But the thing is that okay, I see that it's an homage. I see what you're trying to do. In Immaculate, when she screams, at least, yeah, the screaming goes on for a long time, and you're holding on her for a long time. But it's different. It's different enough where, yeah, it's an homage. Uh, First Omen, blatant. It's like she's practically almost doing the same kind of thrusting motions. uh, but James, a human body can only be thrust a certain amount of ways. So what do you expect? But what made possession so disturbing, like this scene, is that it just starts off kind of normal and goes on and on and on. and on, and it's like, okay, she's losing it. Wow, she's really going on. This actress is really giving it her all, and I can understand that when an actress like Isabel gives us a performance like that, that it's totally something that inspires people to make their own films off of. But it's pretty much the exact same scene, just copied and pasted into the First Omen. So for me, I have to cry a little bit foul about it because I I like Possession. It's a jarring film. It doesn't hold any of its punches back. Uh, Hourglass says there. The plot for the First Omen seems to contradict the Omen. The original trilogy referenced the Bible and the coming of the Antichrist. Yeah, the weird dog thing probably is reference to the Antichrist being born of a jackal. Maybe. And as I said, maybe if it resembled a little bit more of a jackal, then I would have clued in. But it was kind of like this weird, like you could almost. It felt like you could see like the the puppet strings on it, kind of thing. Like the guy, the special effects guy, kind of going like, like that. Like that's. Uh, I was like, okay, there it is. And it lingered on it for too long. It did. Some of these lower budget horror movies seem to do a good job of recognizing that, okay, this is not a very good visual effect. We're going to shoot around this in quick cuts in darkness, but and that should be it will take off the pressure of it being like fully realized kind of thing. It'll leave it to people to have it up here more than actually on screen, and it just I, I, all right, guys. I think I've said my piece about the First Omen. I know that I am in the minority on this. I know that some people out there will think that it's better than Immaculate, which I don't understand how you can possibly think that. Um, I even preferred the Pope's Exorcist over this. Both with Ralph Ineson, obviously. But this is not the first Omen movie. Joe Blow has a poll up. What's the best Omen movie? And oddly enough, there's Sam Neill in Possession. Possession is not an Omen movie. It's not. Possession's more about infidelity and how infidelity is kind of like a demon of this toxic relationship between Sam Neill and Isabel Adjani, right? So it's kind of like, I thought it was much better. So yeah, I do remember, I think, Damien Omen 2, but I definitely don't remember Omen 3, The Final Conflict, and Omen 4, The Awakening. I do remember the soft reboot of it with, who was in that? Um, Julia Stiles was in that version, right? Um, I do remember that version. Uh, and then, of course, the first Omen. You, guys, you got to go with the original, right? And as much as I like Julia Stiles, she's not enough to overrule that. Omen for the Awakening, I don't even remember that one existed. So the first Omen comes in third place there, guys. Poll. What do you guys think? Am I being harsh? Yes, I am. But I got to say my piece because I know movies. I know horror movies. I know story structure. And I can understand when a movie has good story structure or things about it that people will like that I don't like. I'll at least concede that it's got, you know, qualities about it, but it's like it's a weird thing where I'm seeing all of these well-established like people saying that this is good filmmaking, and it's just middle of the road, guys. It's middle tier. I'm very passionate about horror. I love horror. It's my favorite genre. This weekend, I put a poll up on the community tab because I want to know how many people out there know me. The First Omen and Monkey Man came out, and I said, which one do you think I'm going to watch first? I had the chance on Thursday late night to go see the Monkey Man first, but I was like, no, I'm gonna wait and I'm gonna go see First Omen first because that's my bag. I love horror, and it was a letdown. Um, maybe I'm being harsh on it. Maybe I'll revisit it again in the future and say, all right, I'll soften to it. That kind of thing has happened before. Uh, I know that when I first reviewed Alien Covenant, I was extremely harsh on it. I hated it. I loathed it. I came out of the theater as angry as I am now. In fact, I was even probably more harsh on it, and I've softened to it. Um, so it can happen. Can happen. It's just I don't know if it's going to happen for the First Omen. Um, Box office wise, it this is the opening weekend. It's done 17.4 worldwide on a budget of around 30 million. Or we'll have a little bit of staying power because this coming weekend we've got Civil War coming out. It'll inch across the break even line. I just I don't think you'd have to go beyond Damien's movies and explore what happens with that sister, right? What again? The devil or demons, they don't care about gender. They don't. And there's an interesting idea in there that if you go with the sister also being as evil, there's something that you could do with that, right? Just I don't know. Maybe it was the director. Maybe it was the director that just didn't execute this best way. Um, what else has this person done? Brand new cherry flavor. Eek, I didn't like that. Briar Patch. So they've done abstract stuff, like brand new cherry flavor is very abstract. A lot of TV stuff. So this is like what the first big movie um, for them. I'm kind of like, uh, you're going to get another project, and hopefully you can hone and develop those skills. That's what I say. All right, that's the First Omen. So we'll cut that and put it up on the channel later. The possession scene looks like a Billie Eilish video. Again, as I said, there's lots of movies that draw inspiration from that, just that sequence alone, because of what she does as an actress. She goes for it, and in the first minute or so of her going for it, you're like, okay, oh, this is weird, and it just goes on, and it just goes on and on and on, and you're like, they filmed this all in they did this all in one take, didn't they? Oh my god, this actress is just wow. So yeah, it inspires. It inspired a lot of people, um, beyond the realm of horror. Obviously, with if Billie Eilish sort of emulated it. So let's let me collect myself here. I am going to review Monkey Man here. So I am going to do my review for Monkey Man, but I gotta reset here. I kind of want to just cleanse my palate a little bit. So if you guys like my reaction, you want to hear my review for Monkey Man, um, click the video up in the cards here and come join us here on Mirror Domains because as you can see, we talk about movies and I'm passionate about movies. I love movies, and I'm starting to get a little bit hoarse here. It is what it is. All right. All right, throw that in there.